Girl, it's 2025 and you're still paying people to do your makeup? I never want you guys to have to pay another penny again. So let's get into this tutorial. If you want to learn how to do your base and for it to look flawless like this, then let me put you on game for free. So I've gone ahead and already did my eyebrows. It's a whole ordeal. So if you guys want a full video on that, I will be happy to share. I've used the L'Oreal Infallible Concealer to carve out my eyebrows and I put it on any dark spots that I have. I literally apply it. I don't blend it out, let it dry, and then I'm gonna put my foundation on top of it. If you are in the market for a new concealer that is comparable to higher brand concealers but half of the price, I highly recommend the L'Oreal Infallible Concealer. It is absolutely amazing. The coverage, the finish, all of it gorgeous, and their shade range is incredible, so I highly recommend. For foundation, I'm going in with my tried and true Haus Labs. This stuff is incredible. It is so high coverage, the finish is gorgeous, it always looks great, and it's great for days that are incredibly hot and you don't want your face to melt. This is perfect. So I always apply my foundation onto a mixing plate. I go ahead and put it on my brush and apply it directly on my face. I know other people have the method of on a mixing plate or putting it on their hand, applying it all over their face, kind of like in a painting motion and then buffing it out, but this is what works for me. I like to work in halves just in case a foundation has a quick dry time. As you can see, this foundation is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it just looks like butter on the skin. It doesn't even look that good on camera. Even though it looks incredible on camera, it looks better in person. It makes it look like your skin has a filter on, melts into the skin like butter, and you will not have any issues blending it out. I avoid putting foundation underneath my eyes. I only leave that area for concealer. I don't want product to build up in between like my fine lines and stuff like that and make my under eyes look creasy and just too caked on. So I keep that area bare. Always get your neck and underneath your chin. This foundation is a little bit off right now because I do have my summertime tan and I don't want to fall into the trap of buying a summertime shade foundation. So I stick to what I have and I make it work. This foundation is also incredible for the girlies who struggle with any sort of acne. I never experience any sort of breakouts when I use this foundation. As long as you're keeping your brushes clean, you should be good. Now that my foundation is on and we're looking flawless and gorgeous, you can see that I have no hyperpigmentation peeking through because I did the underpainting method with my concealer. You can use any concealer for it. I know a lot of people like to use the NARS pot concealer. I just use what I have on hand and that was Infallible Concealer, but it will make sure that your face looks flawless and no imperfections are peeking through. Now onto concealer, I'm going to be using the Hourglass concealer and I'm going to apply that in very strategic spots. So first I start with applying it down my chin, then a line down my nose. I don't do nose contour, but I let the color difference between the sides of my face and the bridge of my nose do the work for me. I apply it down the center of my forehead and then I'm going to do it underneath my eyes. I do a small triangle underneath my eyes just to add that brightness. I love a good bright inner corner. I feel like it makes you look more awake and overall your face just looks super snatched. The key is making sure that your concealer dries down. It increases the coverage tenfold and it's going to make your under eyes and all your highlight places look flawless. While I wait for it to dry down, I'm going to go in with my cream bronzer. This is the NARS Laguna bronzer in shade 3. So what I do is I take my bronzer and I go in with a angled brush, dip it in, and I'm going to start with right here underneath my cheekbone. And then I'm going to move it up while I still have product on my brush, on my forehead, and lastly on my jawline. Once my placement is complete, I'm going to go ahead and buff it out. I try to keep my bronzer extremely focused. I don't want to stray, go higher or lower. I keep it right underneath that cheekbone for that chiseled look. And when I'm buffing near the hairline, I buff into the hairline, not forward. And now I'm going to do the same to the other side. So now that I'm all bronzed, I'm going to go ahead and blend out all of my concealer. I'm going to start with my chin, go to my nose, up to my forehead, and then I'm going to do my under eyes last. So when I'm blending out my chin, I'm blending it out in a triangle motion where the tip of my chin is the tip of the triangle and then the base is up my lips. And then I like to take the edge of the powder puff and I blend out the edges. With my nose, I'm gonna go straight up. I'm trying to avoid putting the concealer or blending it out towards the edges. Like I said, I don't use nose contour, so I'm trying to keep it like as concise as possible, but if you do use nose contour, this would be the time to apply that contour and you wouldn't have to worry too much about how far your concealer is spreading. And lastly, for my forehead highlight, I'm just gonna go ahead and keep it in a triangle shape also, where the tip is right here and then the base is up here my forehead. You always want to make sure that this part is blended out really well because we did apply bronzer in that area and you don't want it to look like there's a harsh line between your bronzer and your concealer. And now for my eye, I'm gonna start here in the center and work my way in this area. I'm trying to keep a very straight line between my under eye and my nose just to mimic that nose contour. Going straight down the side of my nose. I'm gonna keep my powder puff kind of at an angle when I'm blending out the rest of my under eye. And then when I get to this outer corner, I'm gonna flip my powder puff and go at an angle this way so I can kind of like snatch my eye and make it look like my face is being lifted. We wanna focus that concealer kind of outwards towards your temple. And that really snatches your face and makes you look really lifted. And don't worry if you see a harsh line like that. We're gonna go in and reapply our bronzer in that area and our blush is gonna kind of cover it also. And now I'm gonna do the same for the other side. So now that we're all concealed and highlighted, we're gonna go in with our cream blush. My cream blush of choice is the Patrick Ta Cream Blush and Powder Blush Duo, and this is in the shade She's Giving. I absolutely adore my blush placement. I feel like I picked this up off of a makeup artist on TikTok, and they said to apply it very high towards your temples to also add to that snatched look, and it makes my face look incredible. So I'm gonna take my cream blush and I'm going to apply it on the apple of my cheek first, kind of working it in. Don't be afraid to put it towards that outer corner of your eye. And then I'm going to take that up exactly where I placed that concealer that was kind of cutting through my temple. And I add a little bit up here in my actual temple area. And it looks just so incredible. You see how this side of my face is like so lifted compared to this side? I'm gonna do the same on this other side, not being afraid to kind of press it into my outer corner and putting it all on my temple, kind of creating like a C shape around my eyes with my blush. My lighting was kind of bright, so you really couldn't see my blush, but this is what we're working with. This is how it should look like when you're at this step. I am very heavy-handed with blush. I don't care, and I'm gonna apply more later on. I feel like it just livens up the face and makes you look gorgeous. I might have blush blindness, but like I said, I don't care. So now it is crunch time. We're gonna start powdering our under eyes and all over our face, but we wanna make sure we have no lines and no creases, and we want our under eyes especially to look flawless. What I do is before I put any powder anywhere near my eyes, I'm gonna buff out underneath my under eyes one more time to make sure that I got rid of any sort of lines. And now that I've done that, I'm gonna take this small sort of tapered brush and I'm gonna go in with my translucent powder. This is the Laura Mercier translucent powder in the shade Translucent Honey. And I'm gonna press that into my under eye first, not necessarily baking, but making sure that I'm putting enough to set the under eye properly. And I'm gonna do the same for the other eye. Now I'm gonna take my translucent powder and put it on any places that I get oily or that I'm gonna have any sort of fine lines. So that's around my mouth for my smile lines, and then on my forehead and down my nose because that's where I sweat the most. To get rid of my smile lines, I'm gonna put air in my cheeks, puff them up, and then press the powder into where my fine lines and my smile lines are to make sure that they don't peek through. I'm not too worried about putting my powder anywhere else, like on the sides of my face. I'm gonna be bringing kind of that glow back when I use my setting spray, so I don't really need powder in that area. But if those are your oil points, or if you feel like you need that powder in that area, feel free. So now on to baking. I'm going to bake under my eyes, down my nose, because like I said, that's where I sweat, and anywhere else that I put my concealer, so that's gonna be on my chin and on my forehead. I'm gonna be pretty liberal with the powder because I really don't want to see any creases. I'm gonna make sure I really get in under my eyes because I am a creasy girl, and sometimes the Hourglass concealer leaves pretty deep creases towards the end of the day, so I'm trying to avoid that. Now while my face is baking, I'm gonna go ahead and apply my powder blush and my powder bronzer. I'm applying the bronzer in the same places that I applied my cream bronzer. I'm using the Sephora Collection bronzer. And because this is a duo, I'm gonna go in with this powder bronzer that I have here in the compact and apply that exactly where I put my blush, not afraid to kind of blend in that bake that I have going on the edges. Like I said, don't be afraid to put it in that outer corner and towards your temple. A lot of people love putting blush on their nose. I'm just not a fan, but if that works for you, go ahead and do that now. Now I'm gonna take my powder puff and I'm going to press in my bake. I'm not dusting it off, I'm gonna be pressing it in. I'm also going to take some of that powder and put it on my eyelids to set my eyelids. Like, look how incredible that looks. Just gonna top up my blush one more time. Now I'm going in with my mascara. This is the YSL one. If you're looking for something that is a little bit more budget friendly but equally as incredible, I highly recommend any sort of mascara that L'Oreal carries. I especially like their Lash Paradise or their Telescopic. I was a huge falsies girly. I wore them all throughout my teenage years and into my early 20s, but now you will not catch me with a false lash and some lash glue unless it's an extremely important event where I feel like the look needs a false lash. I love finding effective mascaras that make your lashes look incredible, and honestly it saved me so much time and effort. I'm not fumbling with lashes and lash glue anymore, and I love that for me. Look at that, my lashes look absolutely incredible. The power of a good mascara is unmatched. So now our base is all done, and the last thing that we're gonna do is go in with a good setting spray. This is what's going to make or break your base. It's what's gonna make it sweat proof, transfer proof, all of that fun stuff. My absolute favorite is the Milani Make It Last. I have tried basically every single setting spray on the market, but this one has really stood out to me. It does what it claims, which makes it stay all day. No transfer, no sweat, and it is incredible. You can find it at the drugstore or at Ulta. This was literally like $8, and I'm pretty sure the big one is like between 12 and 14, and it is great. I'm gonna be very liberal with my setting spray. As you can see, I'm basically already done with this one, but that's what you need to do in order to make your face really set. People say that this setting spray is a dupe for the new One Size setting spray, which is like a melter. It melts all your layers together, and I haven't tried that one, but I know that this one takes away the cakiness and it makes your skin look like the foundation was naturally on top of it. But my face is drying from the setting spray. I'm gonna go ahead and do my lips. This is a Maybelline lip liner. This is their lifted liner in the shade Let's Bounce. And for the icing on the cake, I'm going in with the Maybelline Lifter Gloss, and this is in the shade 8 Stone. I feel like I've spent my whole life searching for the perfect nude lip for me, and I found it with this lip combo. Guys, this is unreal, and for it to be Maybelline. Also, the lip liner is transfer proof. This just goes to show that makeup does not always have to be high-end for it to be incredible. A lot of the things in my makeup bag and my makeup drawers are lower-end drugstore products, and they work, if not better, comparable to all of my higher-end expensive makeup. So this is the final look. My base looks incredible, and I can't wait to see how great your base turns out too.